I'm gonna try to see if I can incorporate the whole cult mentality or cult with the situation with the girl I mentioned. Now, as somebody who's mentioned identifying with the autism label, which of course I talk about the truth behind that label, but as someone who's mentioned identifying with the autism label and not being able to tell when people are flirting with her unless they actually mention sex, of course the whole not fitting in, no family, vulnerability, having to run away thing, not even being around people your age, which is also something that I've always had issues with myself, so I could understand. Someone who, of course, was in an abuse situation previously with all types of stuff going on, which is why people have to run away in the first place or they get kicked out. Mentioning how the first time they started noticing that they got attention from adult men was at age 10 and 11 recently. And, constantly talking about the whole freedom concept after running away, but at the end of the day, of course, this person is still going to be really depressed about the whole situation. But people who try to, like, give this vagabond nomad perspective all the time are hiding the realities of the real situation and the brokenness. And anyway, my point I was getting at, though, was somebody who has all this going on, I feel is, of course, even more likely to get taken advantage of. And I mean, most people, like I have already said, really can't handle the whole being alone for a little while thing. Or not even being alone, but like not fall into the same situation that you pretty much had to get away from in the first place. Also, all those things sound like somebody with the common bad judgment. Although, I mean, the dude has like he has a nice truck with a canoe and a tent on the back, or like some pop up type tent thing that they sleep in together. He sounded like Daisy from what was that? What was that thing called? The not Soft White Underbelly. I mean, they were on that too, her and Billy, but Santa Monica close up sounded like Daisy when her and Billy were sleeping in that tent. Which I did go to Santa Monica, and I didn't see any of those people, and I'm sure he did get locked up, which is very unfortunate. Like, you have to be on your P's and Q's when you're trying to escape these trafficking systems, unfortunately, and the police are a big risk, and so are Let Me Help You Lunatics. But anyway, to hurry up and hop back on the point, he really was giving some Daisy vibes, but honestly, it's like a lot of the things about him almost make him seem worse than Daisy in a way. He makes me think of the molester dudes that J girl, or I don't even know, I probably called her so many different names throughout the videos, or maybe I usually don't even like give a name, but the J girl I mentioned in the other video too, where I actually have videos of the different dudes' faces, and of course one mysteriously died after a while, so there was that. But this dude gives me vibes of the one that unalived his dog and had the blankets attached to the ceiling with the steak knives. And it's like the situation isn't funny, but that steak knife thing, that was very interesting to where it became comical. It seems like good bad judgment. Kind of reminds me of this thing I mentioned in another video of a post I had seen way back when, which of course was some bull crap, but it was like, if he at least has a car, something like that. That's what it makes me think of, and I'm just calling it good bad judgment. Or, well, bad good. Yeah, I guess good bad judgment. Is good judgment revolving. Wait, good judgment in the box of bad judgment. Decent bad judgment. So it's not good at all, it's all bad. But it's the decent side of bad judgment. I'm gonna have to probably edit some of that out. So yeah, all those things sound like bad judgment. Of course, the situation is going to be bad regardless. Even if they were the same age, I wouldn't like it just because of the fact that he does all the different substances he does. Of course, I know weed and alcohol, but I'm pretty sure it's something else, at least every now and then. So, yeah, it would be bad regardless. In fact, some things that come to mind with the cult brainwashing and even the rejection and abandonment spirits that also go along with the religious cultness of these types of environments makes me think of something else Daisy said in one of the videos with Billy, where she was talking about the whole this is the group of the misfits and all that. But people are outliers for different reasons. And I noticed that anointed and prophetic people, especially in situations like this with like youth homelessness, and especially on the West Coast where there's already all this weird culty Caesar Borgia hippie stuff, it's like they try to fit in these communities where they also don't belong, which also goes along with the whole being desperate thing. But the thing is, everybody isn't I don't even want to use the term misfit. I don't even like that. But everybody, I don't even know if I can use black sheep. Everybody isn't singled out, or I guess I could say, and maybe an outcast for the same reason you are. But of course, if you fought on the same path that they fell down, you could eventually be. Now, of course, I'm not talking about putting yourself on a pedestal, but you really have to remember that when you get around certain company, you start being buddy-buddy with people, even befriending your quote-unquote girlfriend and a boyfriend and people who are into certain things, eventually you're going to do it too. And just because it seems like you're in the same situation as somebody doesn't really mean you are. And it's something that she's honestly kind of mentioned because she's talked about people's views on homelessness and how people view homeless people as all one thing when that's really not it. And especially in situations like what she's in with all the little grooming stuff. The way situations like that work is that when you first get around the person and you say no to certain things, they may act like they're going to listen, but they're going to keep asking you, and eventually you're going to say yes. It honestly makes me think of the whole Ahab thing. But what it also makes me think about is this post I seen somewhere where somebody was like, I'm asexual and I have a boyfriend, and I told him that I was never ever gonna have sex with anybody, but eventually he asked me, and I don't know why. And the thing is, with how dating is and what it means these days, it's pretty much just prostitution. So the thing is, this person really shouldn't even be quote unquote dating people anyway. And it's like, of course, somebody will be like, okay, in the beginning, but with how these situations work, in their mind, you're eventually going to say yes. That's why they just go along with it. Or they just eventually assault you because you owe them, quote unquote. So in his mind, she's saying she doesn't drink now, supposedly, but I mean, I already went over some of that. And she's saying she doesn't use drugs now, or now all of a sudden she only uses some. But in his mind, eventually she's going to say yes. Or eventually he's just going to slip something in her drink or whatever if he hasn't already done that to her before. But of course, when I see these situations, I always do say something to the person. And it's really hard to find the time because it's like she's so up under him, and it's like she's there for a few seconds, but then she's gone and she's just really clinging up under him. And it also makes me wonder, is she just really clingy, or is he telling her not to like be around people too much and to just stay with him? Because it seems like, well, not it seems like, she's in that tent car thing with him all day long, literally. So yeah, it's really hard to even approach her about the whole situation. But yeah, I always say something to the person, and of course they usually don't listen. Just like that J girl, she was still doing all the same stuff, getting on Tinder because, of course, all the neglect and abuse, and even the whole situation with her guardians dying or overdosing over time, and that's a long story. But she really never did end up listening to me. Then she started talking about seeing ceiling demons, which I kept telling her that stuff was gonna start happening. And then she started saying something about some dude following her, and how nobody believed her, but she believed one of the dudes was outside her house watching her, but everybody felt like she was crazy, so I don't know. But yeah, she's really been dragged into this whole culty freedom thing. And it's like, I get it. I get the, like, getting out of an abuse situation. It feels really revolutionary. And a lot of people really don't understand the strength and bravery and mindset that it takes to get out, especially when you have to do the lay low till 18 thing. But I mean, at the end of the day, at a certain point, we really have to, like, figure out, okay, now what am I gonna do? And people really don't understand how much the destruction of the family systems have, like, affected everybody, and how hard and confusing and just lost you feel when you don't have, like, friends or family, but family specifically, or, well, not even that, parents specifically, or some real role model, which there really aren't a lot of them. And it's like, especially around here, it's quote unquote safe people offering quote unquote safe spaces, which really just leads to a whole bunch of covert and overt SA, but that could be a video of its own. In fact, the dude made me and her taco like yesterday, and she was talking about these tacos are really effing good. Honestly, I'd say she was just hungry, but yeah, anywho, at the communal food thing, he made a couple tacos for him, her, and then he gave me one. And it also kind of reminded me of this whole thing I noticed, which goes along with how superficial really anybody with lust and paraphilias are. But I noticed, especially with the chomo types, it's like they'll have their girlfriend or boyfriend, but then they'll also flirt with me because it's like they just want to get with any younger person. And I'm really going out of order. I'm not even reading off the notes right now. I'm really just real out of order, but it even reminds me of a whole age regression thing with situation, and how, like, they can't get anybody their age. Just a lot of different things that revolve around the whole pedo thing, which, like I said, it doesn't even start in adulthood. It actually starts in childhood, but it's taught and accepted by the parents, just like with sibling SA. It's allowed, and people usually don't just start having these issues when they get older. But I mean, maybe unless they, like, fell into pornography older instead of younger, then they could get it older because they pick up all the spirits from that, or they get assaulted when they're older. But it's like, it usually starts in childhood. It also sometimes has, like, some age regression to it, and how they feel like the younger people are on their level more than older people. There's also the side where people are actually in the cult and they know what they're doing, and they know that they're doing it for rituals. But in situations like this, what it really is that people their age, especially people their age that aren't, like, really messed up and codependent and stuff, they know that the person has issues. They know that the person is living a lifestyle that a lot of people don't like, especially with, like, the traveling thing or the being straight up homeless thing. And so they know that they wouldn't be able to get somebody their age, especially not somebody their age that they really want. And then there's also another thing with it. Not really with people, or at least this specific group of people out here, because they're what people in functioning society would consider put together, because I mean they have jobs and cars and houses and stuff. But I noticed that, like, with the more fallen apart crowd out here, that sounds kind of rude, but the more fallen apart crowd that are, like, really ran down and ran through, their mindset is commonly, well, as long as the person is young and they still have teeth and they stuff like that, which there's a lot I could say about that, but it'll just be really nasty. But yeah, as long as they still have something, whether they're a boy or a girl, of course. Okay, so I'm trying to stick to the topics of the freedom cult, Caesar Borgia mentality, age regression, and what was the third thing? Oh my goodness, wait a minute. Okay, so the third thing was about how during the whole taco situation, she started talking how she had cavities, starting off with saying how she hates her teeth and how she started brushing her teeth 19 years too late and how all her teeth had cavities and it was hurting pretty much. And I'm just thinking, but I told you some months ago and back in like 2023, we were in the same town up north, that there was a clinic there that had a homeless dentist, and you could go to the clinic and lie about your age and name, and they would pay for you to get the cavities fixed. But you've been sitting around all this time and just turned 20 in January and you never went. And it's like, it's like, I really hate seeing these situations, but it's like they don't listen either. And then it's like, no, no, no. We should be coming together, but it's like we're all scared of each other. And then we just run back to what we know, which is the chomos and the codependency and the desperatism and the limerence and all these situations that aren't good for us. But we don't listen to or help each other. And I'm not gonna lie, that's really not something you want. I've heard of people who are in infantilization abuse situations who were 15 and had already lost all their teeth because of it, because they were never taught to brush their teeth and things like that. And then if I go off on a side note about the different weird or interesting, some of them are kind of funny, but the perverse jokes, quote unquote. So of course when you're in environments like this, and I don't mean homeless, I mean like just certain types of people in general, there's gonna be a lot of interesting jokes. It actually makes me think of this lady who was in this construction club type thing with me, and we were doing this project. At least I think that was a construction club. We were doing this project, and I don't know how the conversation came up, but Cartoon Network and Adult Swim came up. And, well, no, I think I mentioned Adult Swim. Somebody mentioned Cartoon Network, and she was like, Cartoon Network is like, it revolves around the creations of questionable middle-aged men or 30-year-old men or something like that. And I was like, if Cartoon Network is questionable, which of course it is all subliminal messages and programming, then Adult Swim is definitely questionable middle-aged men. More than questionable. And that's what a lot of the jokes that have been made by these people, especially this dude, has made me think of. So on the first day at the park, when her and him walked into the bar thing, I guess, where like there's the pantry type thing right next to the other communal fridge or quote unquote communal fridge, where I accidentally got that coffee beer thing. He came in and then a dog came up and the dog was smelling him and licking him and stuff, and like of course as dogs commonly do, the dog came up like right in his crotch area, smelling him and licking him and stuff. And when the dog came up, he was like, no, move, ew, that's a nice gesture and I like the idea, but that's sick. And then of course the girl started laughing, but it's like, I know type of people make comments like that, and honestly, as somebody who's messed up myself since I was a toddler for most of my life, and have been like getting over those issues, which was really easy after leaving my abuse situation, to be honest. I definitely know the workings of people who like make jokes like that, and it's like when people do and say certain things, and when I just look at people, I just see certain things about them, and it's like I pick up a lot of context, and I'm seeing a lot of stuff I don't want to see, and I was already mad enough from the get-go about the whole situation, which is why I'm trying to like figure some things out, because like I said, when I see stuff like this, I always talk to the person, but she's so up under him and like in the car all day, it's really hard to say anything to her. Then there was a situation where she told him that he would make a great cactus after he made the cactus tacos. And I'm not gonna lie, it sounds like something I would probably say to somebody. And it also makes me think of the whole autism label stuff and like the different comments that people who could fit that label make, because that totally sounds like something I would say to somebody. But I don't like it with the context. And he was like, well, thank you. And I'm like, nah, because I don't like the sound of that. I don't like the sound of him making a great cactus, whatever that really means. I don't like it. I don't like it either way. And then third, this was a situation with that same dude, the quote unquote boyfriend, and then some other dude. I have no idea what they said, but they were more so in the kitchen part, which the whole like setup is honestly pretty small, but they were obviously kind of whispering. So the two dudes, they were biting some lemons because that's pretty much all there was to eat other than like the canned goods. While they were biting the lemons and she was in the kitchen, they said whatever in the world they said very quietly because I didn't hear anything. But I heard her response and then all the laughs. And then they said whatever. And she was like, oh my gosh, just like I'm surrounded by monsters. And she was laughing and stuff. It kind of reminds me of when I first came out here. And there was this conversation. It wasn't even between me, but it was between the other dudes. And it just reminds me of like some of the jokes that people in certain mindsets make. And I'm not gonna lie, it was an interesting conversation. So these two dudes, not the same ones, but two different ones. One that apparently people call Jesus or something, which I mean, of course, this goes along with the whole Caesar Borgia religious bullcrap. Which I talk about this often because it's a big issue out here. It always has been, honestly, in the U.S. in general. But I mean, it's like it's really deep. It's a deep topic due to the whole European pagan hijacking and flip around of the Bible. But it's a big issue in the West Coast, but also in the South. But they're worshiping two different versions of Caesar Borgia. But that's the video of its own. So anywho, yeah, I wouldn't call anybody Jesus, but apparently the way the story goes is one day someone told him he looked like a weird Jesus, and so he stuck with it. Honestly, I don't even really think he looks that much like the Caesar Borgia depictions, other than being slim, which he even mentioned how he lost all his teeth due to malnutrition, which is very common. It's really unfortunate. I actually had something like that happen to me, but it was way before I became homeless. But anywho, so what was I saying? Oh yeah, he was talking about some furry soap opera he watched, and then the other dude was like, "Were they having furry sex?" And he was like, "No, but it was very sexual." But this is, like I said, this is two different dudes, not related to the situation with the girl. This was just some people's separate conversation. And it also goes back to the whole questionable middle age and men or 30-year-old men in the adult swim thing. But back to the point in the main story. So, the age regression. I noticed that the dude, he has one of those like joking personas. Kind of like how Leviathan and Jezebel filled abusers, or some of them anyway. Due to the trauma symptoms, they're very comical. In fact, this is something that I actually have because it's kind of passed down, like the whole comedian type thing. So, my younger sister on my mom's side learned it from me. My one full sibling learned it from my dad. I learned it from my dad. I remember it was even used against me at one point as proof I was retarded. Which, of course, I mean, none of the doctors believed it, or at least whatever that lady was. But they get paid to pretend they do. So we were just their paycheck and statistic. But still. So they went along with that because I was very comedic. And I still am, but I haven't really, like, been in a setting where I've even felt comfortable doing that, to be honest. Like, not really. Not usually. Well, yes, I have. But not, it's not like it used to be. But Yeah, anywho. So it's a part of CPTSD. Honestly, a lot of melanated people have it specifically, but abusive people have it too. Anyway, so due to this, abusive people will commonly disguise their abuse as just joking. It's like it has some passive aggression in it. Well, a lot of it is passive aggression, but they do joke abuse. So during the whole cooking situation, even before he started, he was talking about how he was tired because something about her wanting to go somewhere in town, and then he was like, well, no, because then you're gonna want to go to the trampoline place or something like that. I guess they were talking about something like Airbound. I don't know if they have Airbound out here, but it sounded like they were talking about something like that. And then I was thinking, dang, I want to go to the trampoline park. But then I was like, oh no, because I'm setting myself up for some bull crap too. But anywho, that also has like the unequal power dynamic part to it, because it's like this person is like a parent, or at least the parent boyfriend girlfriend thing that I talked about before. So she's trying to like give this person a parent role, which they're gonna kind of have in a way because of the sick power dynamics and all that. So she wants him to do something that a parent would do. So of course, take her to stores, cause for one, she can't drive. She doesn't have a car anyway, of course. What else was it? Take her to trampoline parks from the sounds of it. Just give her rides to buy her stuff. So yeah. And then another part of the conversation, this is where the comedic effect comes in, and even like some of the age regression. And I really see a lot of love bombing too. It really doesn't seem like he's showing his full character, or either due to like all the substances, he really just has this laid back drink, drug, uh, comedic effect, weird creepiness. So he did a playful anger yell type thing while she was asking for stuff, and then talking about how she was hungry, and he was like, I'm effing tired, and then some other stuff. And then she started trying to do this like submissive girlfriend type thing where she was like, well, that's why I'm trying to help you and clean up for you, and I'll help you cook. And she took some stuff to the car, and I don't really remember um all of what was said, but there was that. And then he cooked the food. In fact, he was supposed to cook for everybody, but he only cooked for us. But he was supposed to cook stuff for everybody, if I'm remembering right, because they were still doing the camp cleanup thing, I think, after the whole thing with some people's homes being exploded. I don't even really remember, but yeah. She also had another conversation that I felt was interesting, and I think it goes back to a lot of the previous situations that we were in and then the current situations. Now, she said before that she's went like times without eating sometimes, and that of course just getting out of the situation was all that mattered. Me personally, since being homeless, I've never went a day without eating. Actually, access to food has been easier since being homeless, but I still can relate to the metabolic issues and even metabolic issues from my previous situation. And so she had this conversation with somebody about how like she was full after the one taco, and then the boyfriend dude kept asking her if she wanted another one. She was like, yes, but I'm full. And then she started talking about how like she asked somebody else if they also have a fast metabolism. But from what I've been getting from my research, it's not even the fast metabolism stuff. It's that people really have hidden serious health issues and pancreatic issues and intestinal nerve damage and stuff from these abuse situations and these drugs and different things that happen, which really affects the body's ability to process food, store fat, store muscle, keep fat, and things like that, which of course I've been calling hidden insulin resistance or something like that. I talk about this in my playlist about how to know if you're being gaslit about having diabetes. which honestly really comes from starvation and also iatrogenics. Now to go back to that article that I have some screenshots of at the beginning, I was really skimming through it, but I did read a good portion of it, and the person was never able to figure out what they were really trying to figure out. But there's this one part where the dude uh, who was said to be, it wasn't really making sense, but it sounds like he was a serial unaliver and he assaulted some people. And so anyway, there was this one part where the person who made the article was like, the dude said, I was getting accused of assaulting some girl, but actually I was the only person that didn't assault her in the town. And now, of course, I have no idea who they're talking about. Probably not the same person, to be honest, but it's somebody, obviously. So something happened, but he was like, I was the only one that didn't, and I wouldn't even use the bathroom or take a crap around a lady. And I'm like, yeah. So sounds like somebody was getting passed around, which is very not good. And I can only wonder who it is. I don't know if they still stay here or not, but now, I do know that there's this weird dude that came up to me that seemed to be holding some lady hostage, or at least she was too scared to say anything when he, like, approached me on the usual mess. I should have started this off by saying this doesn't even have anything to do with, like, homelessness or any of that. This is a big issue in society, and it's everywhere. I mean, even people who don't leave their abuse situations and stay living with their abusers still end up getting assaulted by some relative, some neighbor, some family friend, teacher, some random person walking down the street. And that's because we live in a fallen society. Roles have been not only reversed but completely destroyed. And everything's just really messed up. And like I said, when I stayed in GA for that little while, everybody I met in that school except for like 3 people, male or female, had been essayed and were turned out, or some still had other issues, but they still had got essayed, but they didn't get turned out. But usually you do, and then you either start trying to become another gender, or you make up some other gender, which is really about the spirits that come in you, but also just the fact that trauma gives you multiple personalities. So the multiple personalities are trying to live they're trying to live through you vicariously like a Asian tiger parent. But anywho, okay, this is really long, so I'm reading the notes again. Back to the whole petals or superficial thing. There was a situation when I was in Manhattan with some kids at a youth shelter, and this one dude. This was November, December. This one dude, he was, I don't know, 24, 25. His girlfriend looked in the other direction for 1 second, but she was still standing right there. And of course, he tried to like lure me into some bull crap and tried to give me some of his prescriptions. Well, he asked me if I wanted some, and I was like, no. And I was like, I don't do pharmaceuticals. I don't do any of that stuff, because those are the drugs that people are using. And people are always saying mentally ill homeless people should just take their drugs or their meds, and their meds are the drugs. That's what people are all on. They're on the pharmaceuticals, because I mean, what else is there to do? It's all the same bull crap. But yeah, anywho, so there was that. He just wanted to get with whoever was younger, so there was that. It also goes into something I've already mentioned with the whole drugging thing, just to assault you, and that's something that's really common. It's like, I know in the hood they call it like kicking it or something like that, where like you will smoke weed with your friends or whatever. But out here, it's like that, but, well, not even just out here with predatory people, it's like that, but they just want you to start using substances so they can assault you. And that's like the first question people ask you is, do you smoke? And they'll try to offer you drinks and marijuana and other things like that just because they want to get you high to assault you. And like I've already said, just hanging around a whole bunch of people who are on stuff or into weird stuff, it's just going to mess you up and lead you down the wrong path. So you don't want to do it regardless. And it also makes me think of something that DMX's stepsister from foster care said, which is she was scared to even take a sip of alcohol or even smoke a little bit of any drug or even cigarettes. Or at least I think this was something like that she said. And she was like, she was scared because she didn't want to find any peace in it and then get addicted to it. Another thing, which is pushed around a lot, just because other people around your age don't get you and you're not around other people your age, doesn't mean you gotta start dating and befriending older people. I'm gonna give you some advice from my dad. Just like he said, leave people the F alone. Because honestly, when you're in situations like this and you have that type of mindset where you just want to get around anybody, that's never gonna end well. And I get like only really being able to relate and have conversations with elderly people, but it's just too many predatory people for that. I mean, even younger people. I've had like younger people try to do stuff to me because of like my situation and having to hide from the police, and they knew that they could use that against me. And of course, not all older people are predators, which I'm focusing on people who are too old for you to be dating and being friends with anyway, but a lot of people are. And the unfortunate thing is that the people who aren't predatory, they don't want anything to do with people's situations and they're quote unquote minding their business, or they're scared, or they just don't have the time, quote unquote, and different things like that. So that's why I say take escaping your abuse situation as a time to, one, not throw yourself in another one, two, see Yahweh's purpose for your life, three, really try to find the right people to be around, like actually the right people. Not hanging around people because they're in your proximity and you feel like you're in similar situations. Just because you're in the same place physically doesn't mean you're in the same place mentally or spiritually. Another thing that would also really help: fasting, praying, Bible study, learning demonology, along with um, different trauma symptoms, which can help you work through that. I remember I started doing that somewhat at 8, which is when I found out about some of the marine spirits and how that goes along. Well, no, I pieced it together with how it goes along with lust spirits, same-sex attraction, what else was it? Just sexual addiction in general. I did that a little bit at 8, but at 14, when I really started to break free from the gaslighting, at 14, that's when I started doing deep research on the spiritual side to trauma and even just abuse and CPTSD. I read the DSMV, just a lot of stuff with that. That'll really help you. And honestly, like I always say, you should really do that before even leaving the situation. Last thing, which is really common for homeless people, it seems, breaking out into singing or freestyling. So, we were just sitting there. This is going back to the girl in the communal kitchen thing. And then she started singing songs because she makes songs, as we commonly do, it seems. I had actually seen a dude do the same thing the other day, and it was a really good freestyle. But anyway, she was playing the ukulele or something for some minutes, and then it kind of like made me a little nervous because I was kind of falling asleep, and it came out of nowhere. And then she started singing one of the songs she wrote, and of course it was about dying, um, stuff about how the government is to people, family, wanting to be buried, wanting to turn into a tree, and stuff like that. And I know that the situation, it affects all of us. It's a big reason why I keep saying we need to come together instead of everybody just talking and crying. And it's really upsetting though, because I remember her talking about being alone for her birthdays usually until she came here to the slabs, existing for Christmas, as she calls it. accepting the reality of the situation for New Year's. I pay attention to a lot of stuff like that, to be honest. Also, she ran with her dog, but I don't know if it died or if she had to like give it to somebody because she just couldn't take care of it, or if it's like with someone or something with the dude and the dog. I don't know, or like maybe something happened and that's why she got with the dude. Because of course, through the abuse situations, not fitting in with other kids or family, and even running away, a lot of people, all they have is their pets, so I could see how if something happened to it, she would get with him. But it also kind of seems like she's probably been with him already since 17 or whatever. But I don't really know.